So it seems we're kind of getting into a good place on the risk side of things. Um, I haven't spoken to Edson in a week or so now, so I'm not quite sure where he is, but I know he was making good progress on his side. On the intent side, I think the gaps at the moment just is really around pricing. Um, and no one from the pricing team is on the call, really. I know, Chico, you were kind of straddling both a bit, but have you looked at price? You're working on risk as well, right, Chico Dili?
Yes. The partner need to understand that the metrics how it affects the risk of the mortgage or the like environment that we are estimating. So just to have I think yeah, that's actually what I'm focused at the moment.
Right, but were you just working on the risk side of it, or were you working on risk and price?
At the moment, I'm working on risk, but as soon as I'm able to complete this, then I can move into the price.
Okay. So you're straddling both. I thought so. Okay, that's fine, and it's fine to kind of get understand the risk before sort of tackling the price side of it. I just want to know where we are in that process.
I can try and divert some of my attention to price as well if needed, because I feel like long term the goal is like we talked to like have a fully running code or a function where it's like everything is like integrated all in one, because we will use the risk to calculate the price. So it would just kind of be hand in hand in that sense. So I can also like, since there's like so much help on the risk side of it, I can like divert some of my focus on the pricing aspect of things.
Okay, no, that would be good. And you're absolutely right. They are totally correlated and interrelated. So yes, at some point they do need to all converge. So having a good understanding of both is a good place to start from. So on that note, Drew, I think just familiarizing yourself with the pricing work reports and the work that's done today is probably a good place to start there.
Awesome. Yeah, I read the previous pricing report that we currently have. And yeah, I had like some thoughts about it, but I'll like work on that a bit more and see what the next steps for those could be. And we can like discuss that Wednesday.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I think it in a similar way will need a bit of research at this stage as well. I think it's probably in the same phase with that right now.
Sounds good.
Excellent. So anything else from anyone else?
Sure.
I'm not able to make the Wednesday meetings, unfortunately, because I have a class conflict. I know that we checked everyone's availability before we scheduled that, but if we could schedule that to a time outside of my classes, that would definitely be ideal.
When is your clash and what's your availability on Wednesdays?
Monday to Wednesday, I'm in class from 9 to 3 p.m.
Hmm.
Tuesday, I'm in class until 4, and then Thursdays and Fridays, I'm done by 1 p.m. or 1:30.
That's a little bit tricky. Late afternoon meetings tend not to work very well, I find. I think earlier in the day tends to have everyone's sort of energy level higher. What's well, Friday we have this meeting, so that
Graduate, and pretty much everyone else is a graduate student, so it's a different schedule. But Junel's doing a really good job keeping me posted. And I think we're gonna meet in person to.
So you got updated about this. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Also, one other thing we can do is we can just like maybe record the meetings. That's just like an easier way for him to like maybe watch it at like 2x speed or whatever, and just like catch up on what's going on.
Yep, yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. And I hate that you're not able to, that it does clash with your schedule. It's a little bit cat herding though, because it's quite a big team now, and everyone's schedules is a little bit challenging. It took a while to land on that Wednesday time. So let's record it in the meantime and then kind of see if there's something that we can do scheduling wise with everyone that works for everyone.
Sounds good, thank you.
And by the way, I'm adding you to the conference. I just realized there's one spot left and I give it to you. I'm gonna have to add you to the group meeting. So you're aware of it. You'll see, you'll get it. All right. The present.
Awesome. So let me see what else is there. And actually, just since we've got a little bit of time to play with, what is just been added to the platform is a reputation score as well. And that will actually, it's kind of not central to risk. It's kind of a little bit more of an adjacent risk factor, but it will be an important one as well to basically consider. And it's both on the individual and on the agent side. And the agent side is interesting because it will be agents, of course, AI agents, that is. But that's, I think organizations could easily be represented by agents rather than having to create a separate category. It's kind of human, non-human, effectively. So that's in the platform as well now. It's kind of alpha. It's really all built around, currently the scoring framework is really focused around development, like computer science development or coding, more sort of blockchain development, but those categories can be expanded accordingly.
I have a question. When you say the reputation, you mean like the
The user's reputation.
of the user's reputation? Okay.
Yeah. But that could be extended to, I mean, a user can be the owner of an iCube, the creator of an iCube, a data seeker, it covers the entire.
And how is that defined again?
So at the moment, let me show you. What would be the easiest thing? Stuff is always a lot less abstract when you can see it. Look, right there, I'm right there at the moment. So essentially, let me just go back a step here. In the operations console, and this is a very busy page, which will probably be broken down into subsections, but it's kind of like the overall nerve center for the entire application at the moment. But so it's part of this identity management system. So of course, as you know, identifiability is one of the key things that we focus on in terms of risk overall. And so every entity, so a user or an agent, basically has this means you can, we've developed this, it's pretty comprehensive framework for managing identity. So you have personas, and then you have these decentralized identifiers, aka DIDs. And this is a W3 standard, W3C standard, DIDs, decentralized identifiers. And they're basically self-sovereign. So you have control over how these identifiers are used and shared. They're totally user-controlled, user-issued and generated, but they can be verified by third parties, which is where they kind of become quite powerful. So essentially, we have a framework where we have these different DIDs, and then you have these different identity states. So anonymous, semi-anonymous, semi-identifiable, and identifiable. And this is all managed through the protocol in the back end. It's a really important part that when a user or entity declares themselves in any of these states, that is maintained throughout their engagement with third parties, with the party that they're choosing to elect with. So if I choose to have a conversation with you, say I've never met you before, Jamal, and we start talking, I can say, okay, well, I want to engage in this conversation anonymously, this transaction anonymously, or semi-anonymously. And I won't bore you with the details of this at the moment, but there is a rigorous framework of ensuring that that identity state is managed by the system. So at the network level, all interactions are basically anonymous or semi-anonymous, and they're semi-anonymous for an escrow period. So when a transaction happens, there's an escrow period of, we haven't really defined exactly how long that will be, but 30 minutes to a few days potentially, depending, it's configurable depending on the nature of the transaction. There's an escrow period, and during that escrow period, a user's identity is semi-anonymous, which means it's quite complex, but they're part of a cohort. It means that they can basically not be individually identified. But what does happen in this escrow period is that on a zero knowledge basis, they have a root did, which is basically an identifier. It's kind of like a government ID level identifier, like a driving license or a passport. One of those kind of credentials would be used to establish a did. So it's kind of who you really are versus a persona, which can be just a handle. It's like a, you know, like a handle that you might use on Twitter or Facebook, for example. It's something that you use to control how you're presented, but you you can change that. It's very transient. So the important thing is when a transaction happens, if the transaction is flagged for being malicious in any kind of way, then that flag is basically sent to a batch of users who form a cohort. And this cohort is randomly formed, but it always includes the transaction that has been flagged as being potentially malicious. So during that escrow period, let's say there's 10 users who receive that flag. All of those 10 users will be given the opportunity to contest the flag and show that their transaction was genuine, and then the flag disappears. There are also some automated processes to automatically remove some of those users from the cohort, but again, in a zero knowledge basis. So even the system doesn't know who the users are, but it is able to send a flag to this root did. So that root did then becomes the aggregator of reputation. So you know when you certain transactions you may be required to present your reputation, and it's kind of like eBay or any of those kind of platforms where you basically have a reputation score, and then you'll basically be able to manage it accordingly. Now, so this is sharp. So you see these are different reputations assigned to different users, and you can check any of them and it will check them. I don't think these ones have reputation cards set up yet. But then when you go into, there's a modal for managing reputation now. And this is done by an administrator or an entity, you know, someone that basically is responsible for managing reputation. And then when you select a persona, so this is one that I was working with earlier. So you can see you have, at the moment, it's focused around, like I say, around development. So it's like GitHub contributions, project contributions, peer endorsements, etc. So these are all things that a user does, and then it is verified by a third party, such as an administrator who's operates here. And the more of those things they do in a positive way, then the more their reputation kind of increases accordingly. So it's kind of like the skeletal framework, the bare bones of it, but it can become quite multifaceted, where reputation and can be earned and built on across many different dimensions and vectors. But the most important thing from your point of view is that it culminates in a score. You know, it culminates in a reputation score. And again, all of this stuff is all contextual. The important thing is that you always are looking in context. So in the context of software development, this reputation score would be weighted high compared to in the context of, I don't know, financial trading or you know, yeah, it can be any kind of, you know. So that's the richness we'll start to build on this going forward. but effectively, it's always start with a framework, then you add context to that framework to essentially improve it. And there is actually even a weighting in this already, as you can see here. So you can score, you can weight it accordingly, and you can provide evidence. So this is really an evidence submission framework for an administrator submitting evidence, like a project manager. Like, say, like in this course now, imagine we use this to effectively weight people's contributions to the project. We could basically